Hey there, welcome to Find Your Lady Tribe and welcome back to Season 2, Your Midlife Mindset. I am so excited about this season and I'm even more excited to introduce my new co-host, so stay tuned. Welcome to Find Your Lady Tribe. I am your host, Brenda Ridgely, author, speaker, and midlife women's coach. This season is dedicated to your midlife mindset. So be sure to subscribe now to be notified of a new episode each week. I am honored to be joined this season by co-host Tressen Bryant of Lovin Life Coaching. She is a mindset, trauma, and relationship expert. Join our inner circle to be the first to know about retreats, workshops, events, and receive tribe-building tips. Go to tinyurl.com/Find Your Lady Tribe to join. Are you ready? Let's go. Welcome back. Well, like I said, I am super excited about this season. It's going to be all about our midlife mindset, your midlife mindset. And who better to be a part of this great conversation than one of my very, very good friends, a lifelong friend, Tressen Bryant. Tressen, tell us just a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself.
Well, Brenda, I'm so thankful that you've asked me to be your co-host for this season of your podcast, because this is a pretty amazing thing that you're doing here. My name is Tressen Bryant. I'm with Lovin Life Coaching, and I am helping people interrupt the negative patterns in their life that come from the traumas that they've experienced in their past, mostly like adolescent or childhood traumas, to live a life that they love.
I love that. I think Tressen is going to have so much to add to this conversation about all of the midlife maladies and misinformation and all this stuff that's going on in our lives, right? And I just have to share that Tressen and I have known each other. I think we determined since 2008 or 2009, somewhere there. So we have kind of, our lives have interwoven throughout the years. We've raised our children side by side. Mm-hmm. We had a lot of time when we were able to connect regularly, and then we had years when we weren't able to because our life had taken over. So I'm sure we'll touch on some of those things, but we always get right back here, don't we?
We do, and you know, Brenda, what I love about you is that I feel like even though we had those separate times from each other, we were able to literally pick up right from where we left off and started as though we never did leave off. And so that's one thing that I've always loved and appreciated about you and the friendship that we have. And, you know, life just takes you in different directions. You're raising children, you're driving everybody around. I mean, as you already know, you're doing all of these things, and it's not on purpose that you go. But I think that I'm so grateful that we've never lost our connection with each other, and that we're back here today videoing this and creating this for the Lady Tribe, right?
Yep. For Find Your Lady Tribe. That's right. So yeah, we're back for another incredible season of connection. We're focusing on all the stuff that's going on in our midlife, but I'm always going to be the one to bring in the tribe. I'm your tribe lady, and we're going to refocus back to how important those relationships are to us, especially as women, throughout our life, to create that platform of support, that circle, that tribe of support from which you can launch. And even if you fail over and over again, you're not worried about it because you have a soft place to fall, people who are cheering you on, and even sometimes people who will tell you when you're getting it a little wrong. And you need to make an adjustment, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I think it's so good, you know, we fail forward, right? Mm-hmm. We fail forward, like John Maxwell says in his book, you know, you fail forward, because that's literally, life is a series of what we deem failures. And you know, as a midlife coach or a mindset coach for your midlife mindset, you know, we have a perception on what we can think about, what we perceive as failures. But really, if you never make a mistake, or you never do something that you think is maybe the wrong way to do it or something, where is there the experience of learning and gaining from that? So we're basically sitting here with the ability to turn any failure into a success in some way, shape, or form, and see the blessing in it.
Right. And throughout this, we're going to be talking about all of the crazy maladies and misinformation, like I said before,
Right.
that we've been experiencing. Things like menopause, and maybe we're single for the first time or
Yes.
for a long time through what does that look like in midlife? And maybe we're having our parents need us more.
Yeah,
all these different things. Maybe we've experienced a major loss.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about all kinds of different things and how. I'm going to bring it back to this point. This is a big part of the season, is that all of these things that have happened in our lives and that we've grown from and that we've felt like failures maybe, or maybe felt like triumphs.
Right.
This has been nurturing our purpose and soul. So that we have this basically our own launching pad to create and be and do and have everything we want in our next, whatever that might be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everything has been leading up to this point in time in your life. So, I'm 54 years old, and I can look back on my life, Brenda, and see the blessing in all of the challenges that I've had. And also just really like a puzzle, see all the puzzle pieces and everything that lined up so that I could take advantage of the opportunities that are presented to me now based on the things that I needed to learn. I might have been not really understanding why I was learning something at that specific moment in time, or why I had that person in my life at that specific moment in time. But now when I look at that and I can see that sort of trail, now I understand and I know why. And hopefully we're consciously creating our lives in a manner that we can recognize those things. We can look back and go, oh, wow, now I see that there was a whole purpose and reason for some of those things that happened, the good and the bad.
Right, absolutely. So that's what our season's all about. And, what topic is a better starting point than what many of us are facing, approaching, facing in the middle of, or have just something that just happened to us? The empty nest.
Yeah.
And
right.
I got to thinking as we were kind of just talking about all these topics about the empty nest and my own empty nest experience and what it was like and how it may have impacted how I as a mother treated this time of my life. So I was thinking maybe we could both just talk about that, and if you would share just a little bit about your experience leaving the nest of your family.
Absolutely. So I was 15 years old. I had a totally different upbringing than a lot of people. And I had been homeschooled, and I had an abusive situation going on in my household. And I was so ready to get out of it. Yeah. So I actually was employed and had my first car at 15 years old. What? I know, it's crazy. I was driving.
You're living the dream for a teenager.
I know, right? I was driving at age 15 and I was employed, but I used those things as my tools to get out of the situation that I was currently in. Mm-hmm. And so I left and just continued forward from there and just found a way to make my own way. I got my GED as soon as possible as I, wanted to explore new opportunities for employment and different things like that. So I got that GED and I moved out of my mother and stepfather's house into my dad's place, which was fantastic for me. But yeah, for a lot of people, when they look back, it might have been a typical upbringing for them because a lot of us were raised in a family that things were dysfunctional, right? And they weren't positive.
Yeah, you say it's unique, but we all have such unique journeys, don't we? And a lot of people, unfortunately, to say maybe didn't.
It's probably more the norm.
Yeah,
it's probably more the norm, and I think it's great that we normalize that and make it an opportunity. Right. For acceptance and for love and for progression and learning something new, changing the legacy of the way that you were brought up. Right. So
you felt like you left at 15 and you had to support yourself.
Oh yeah.
And I think you said something about how many men were you?
I was the first female and youngest foreman at age 18 years old when I lived in Bend, Oregon at one of the largest lumber mills at that time in Bend, Oregon. And I had 120 men under my supervision. And that was kind of an unheard of thing, but I did it. And so, leaving at a young age made me realize that I had all of this confidence and ability that maybe I wouldn't have known had I stayed at home. So I think that really what I've tried to do over all of these years, it took me a while, Brenda, to get there, but I have learned to find the blessing in all of those challenges. What about you? Can you share with me, like, what was your leaving the nest like?
Well, I wasn't quite as eager. I did not leave at 15, but I was eager. I was ready. At 18, I felt like I was ready to take on the world. I was ready to get out from under that household and all those rules. I had things like, I was the oldest in the family. I had a curfew of 10:30 on a Saturday night. Are you kidding?
Way too early.
Right? And then, of course, my sister, she was 11, and then my younger brother, he was midnight. I mean, so unfair. You first kids, you know what I'm talking about. We had to break all the rules so the kids behind us could have a little freedom, right?
You had to set the trail.
So I was ready, and my parents were great. There's nothing to say about anything, it wasn't too restrictive, but I was tired of not having the clothes I wanted and doing the things I wanted, having the discretionary. I wanted to have my own money and my own place and all that. So they helped me by, looking for colleges, and I got into one that I wanted, and they helped me get there. And to be honest, when they dropped me off at school, there weren't any tears really shed. I mean, maybe a little bit of choke up, just kind of, that was a moment. But we were all, three of us, my folks and I, were just ready for that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, where I left in college. And then when I came back from college for just breaks, my parents had moved, and all of my belongings were in a box in the guest room.
Right.
So I was allowed to stay in the guest room.
Clear message there.
4 summers until I graduated.
Oh,
so, that was kind of a little, this isn't my home anymore. It wasn't my home when I came back. So that felt a little not great, I would say. Not that I wanted to move back home, but I didn't feel like a big welcoming option either. So that's kind of where that went. And then when I did graduate, actually my senior year in college, my mom would scour the Denver Post every Sunday my senior year. She would cut out the clippings. So I'm aging us.
Okay, that's okay. Yeah. I love the age we are.
The newspaper had the one ads in it. She would clip out these positions and how to apply, and she'd tape it to a blue piece of paper.
Oh.
She would fold it up, mail it to me to college, and I would diligently open it up and send my resume out to all these places. And I probably maybe sent 100 before I graduated. And the job I landed was in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Wow.
That was a little scary, but my parents were not scared at all. They picked up my stuff right from graduation, and we caravanned all the way to Vegas, and they dropped me off.
That is amazing.
So quite I was like, bye.
Right.
I guess I'm adult now.
Right.
And you're already doing that.
And here I go, right? And here I go. Like, oh, wow, that's amazing. I just love that part of your story, Brenda, because, there's a lot of things I think that probably were going on with your mom and your dad, right? So your dad had a certain role that he was, the provider. He was doing what that generation knew to do.
Yep.
And your mom was also doing what that generation knew to do, which was probably all encompassing, I would imagine, for your mom. She was probably the homemaker. You mentioned, I think, at one point in time that she's also the homemaker and working.
Right. So they were the first generation, right? The first generation where both mom and dad worked full time. I mean, my grandparents on both sides, my grandfathers worked, brought home the bacon.
Right.
And my grandmothers fried it up in a pan.
Right.
And so my mom and dad went into it differently. They were ambitious and excited and all that, and they went into that 2 income household, which they chose to do, but it was also probably needed at the time with the economy and all. But being in the women's movement era and the feminist era, we women had to do it all, be it all, and not ask for any help.
Right.
And I think my mom fell into that trap, working 40 hours a day for the man,
right.
and coming home frying the bacon up in a pan, taking care of the
Oh my
kids,
goodness.
cleaning the house, getting them off to bed, to do it all over again tomorrow.
Seriously.
And so that was a lot. So I think she was ready for a break from that.
Yeah, and I think that you're probably right. I mean, we can never truly know what anybody else feels, but at the same time, she was probably ready for a break, but at the same time, she was probably feeling the same thing that we feel as parents. We have this heart-centered thing for our own children and our kids. So your mom was, I'm guessing, was probably feeling that for you, but also trying to do a fantastic job as a parent, raising you and turning you out into the world so that you could become you and be successful with that. So
right. Yeah. They were doing the best they knew how. And I think they did a pretty good job.
They did an excellent job. They did an excellent job.
So Tressen,
I love it.
How did your upbringing affect your mothering, your children through and into the empty nest?
Well, I think that's a great question, Brenda, because it affected it immensely. Because I wanted to change the legacy for my kids. I didn't want them growing up in a dysfunctional atmosphere. I didn't want them to grow up in an abusive atmosphere, and they didn't. And so my kids, one of the goals that I had for myself was that my kids aren't going to experience the stuff that I experienced, right? And we all have a certain sense of that in different ways. My kids are never going to do that. They're going to do this.
They're going to learn from my mistakes.
Right, exactly. And you know what? Really, isn't that what we want as we progress from generation to generation? We want to progress. We want to grow. We want to experience all of those things. We have a lot of people in generational trauma and all of these types of things. And they are staying stuck in what the norm and what was accepted for them. I didn't want to accept that. Right. What I wanted to do was create a whole entirely new experience for my kids. And so, we've done that. We've got my oldest, who is 20 years old, is at college and now wants to be a professor of theology. Wow. And is, a junior in college and just got his first apartment. And then we also have my youngest, who just graduated from high school. So woohoo! I know, it's amazing. We did it. And so, we're doing it a different way. We get to do it a different way, Brenda. We get to take the beautiful and amazing things. So my mom homeschooled me. And I will tell you, some of the most valuable lessons that I gained from that were a sense of being an entrepreneur, thinking for myself, even though there were also a dysfunctional side of that. I was able to reach in there and grab the cool stuff that my mom was able to do. Work ethic, right? You can't be the youngest foreman in a lumber mill without a work ethic. And so there were some really valuable things that I took from that. And then I brought them into, basically letting my own kids go out and do what they naturally are supposed to do on their own.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, that whole foreman story just tells me what a burning desire you had for your independence and,
oh my gosh,
and for a new life that you had control over. And but you also, I know that you put that in your kids. They're driven as well. Yeah. They're driven to in their own arenas, which is really exciting. I mean, isn't your son buying his first house? Something like that? Or
no, he just got his first apartment. He got his first apartment. But the thing is that you're right about that, in that I think the thing that I took from that's the most valuable, Brenda, is that I understood that my kids needed to be allowed to be individuals. Yeah. My upbringing was extremely strict, very abusive and strict. So very controlled and strict, but you can't go and do this because the world's not really a safe thing. But so it was a weird dichotomy going on there. So what I learned from that was to really embrace letting my kids become their own individuals. And I think that, with your upbringing, you're doing the same thing with your kids right now. You're giving them a really safe space to be here at your home, not necessarily permanently anymore because your kids have left the nest, but hey, I've got a spot for you. You're loved, you're safe, you have safety here, and you belong. Right. but get out and go do your own
Well,
thing.
I should probably share how it's
Right?
I'm parenting,
Yes,
because
you should.
it is it is a little different, because I don't think I had the intentions that you had going into it, or
Sure.
even recognized that might be a thing.
Yeah.
But when my children were in high school, I pretty much had this aha, slam the door in your face moment where I realized my life as I knew it was coming to an end.
Yeah.
And over the last 15 to 20 years, I had given up so much of myself, of my own interests, and my own relationships. It was all so focused on my most important number one job of being a mother.
Yeah.
And when I kind of realized that was coming to an end, I freaked out, because, to be honest, when I was a kid, I dreamed of graduating high school, and I dreamed of going to college, and then having a career, and then getting married, and then having kids. So check. Then what?
Boxes.
Then what? All my boxes are checked.
Right.
Am I done? Is it over? Like,
right.
what's left for me? And I really seriously went into a deep depression.
What age were you, if you don't mind me asking?
I probably, let's see, I must have been mid 40s.
Oh, yeah.
When this happened.
Right.
And I literally for years was in this kind of, I call them my funk years, of just kind of wandering around, what's it all about, and creating and clinging to every moment that I could.
Yeah.
Really not ready for them to leave. Really not encouraging it. Of course, I was helping in any way I could, but I was resistant and feeling that resistance until one day that I realized that my life was not over.
Right.
and that's how where my first book comes into play. Is just kind of explaining that whole this and that turnaround and how I got out of that funk. But so I was so worried about my kids leaving the nest, and as kind of Tressen implied, watch out what you wish for, ladies. Because I don't have an empty nest. Really, technically, I never have had one. I was supposed to have an empty nest in the fall of 2020. But, I don't need to say any more about that.
Right.
Probably.
We all know why.
So I have had my son return from New York City in 2020 to just for a couple weeks, just a couple weeks. It's going to be over. Let's just let this thing breeze over. And, I'm very proud of him, and he's very productive, works very hard, but he's here in my basement still.
Yeah.
And my daughter did proceed. She did go to college. She is still in college, home for the summers. So that's where we're at.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not encouraging, them to leave forever or anything, because I still have mixed feelings about it, to be honest. There's a lot to it.
I think our perception of anything is like super important, right? So we kind of define certain things as the end of something and the beginning of something else. And it doesn't have to be, we can perceive anything either negatively or positively or indifferent, right? We can be indifferent to things. When we have indifferent, we're still kind of making some sort of a choice. I think it's better when we voice what it is that we want to have happen, and we try to, as a collective household, get the feeling and the idea of what that looks like. So say, for instance, your son comes home from college, and what does that look like? Does that mean that we have several months because he's trying to reframe what it is that his goal? So everything is fluid, right? And so we can see this as, this is kind of like, the initial launch didn't go as expected, or actually did it go as expected because he knew he had a safe space to come back to when COVID and all of these other crazy things were going on, and he knew he could come back here. Now, to me, in my mind, that's a huge accomplishment for you and your family to have that ability in order to bring the kids back when they need you. But also, this is also not something that you want to be a forever thing, because you've got your own self and your own mindset and your own husband and things that you're going to do and accomplish. So you go, okay, you can come back here, you can do your thing, and then we're just going to nurture you back on out your way as the next thing comes available. And you know, we don't stop parenting when our kids leave. But I think there's a big difference, don't you think, Brenda? When kids are little, we're parenting, and when they become a little bit older, we're guiding.
It's more like we're the coach.
We're guiding. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a coach. And, you know, you have these conversations with your kids where you can say things differently than you can with the mindset of someone who's young. And I don't know, it's just it's a totally different situation. So I think that it's fluid all the time. And it's all in how you perceive that. We're talking about your midlife mindset here in this podcast. And it's really what our goal with this is to teach people that you get to decide what your mindset is about any of these things that are happening to you, or are they happening for you all of the time? And
or are you directing it yourself?
Yeah.
It's not to you, for you, or because you chose it. And
consciously creating it.
Yeah, we want to make sure we have we really intentionally set our mindset around the way we want things to turn out.
Yeah.
And it's too easy, even at this point, to fall into the mom guilt. For me,
my goodness.
It's like, am I making it too comfortable? My parents might say I make it too comfortable. I might agree with them. It's pretty comfortable to be here in this home, and so you go through that. Am I help impairing them from their launch, from them, doing that next thing? Some days I feel maybe, some days I don't know.
Okay, suggestion. We're going to make it comfortable and temporary. That's what we're going to do. It's not either or, it's both and more, right?
Need a plan.
So, yeah. So you just go, oh, yeah, you're welcome here. But pretty soon you got to get the heck out of here, right? You got to go back on your own like we designed in the first place so that you can really embrace both things at the same time, right? So you are ready to embrace you and your husband's next chapter and your life. And also you're embracing your kids' life. So your perception is we all get to win. We all get to win at all of this, right? And when you perceive it that way, so many things are possible. Some of you might not be feeling like that's a possibility right now because you're like, oh my gosh, my kids are leaving. I am bawling my eyes out every single day. But when you get curious about the possibilities and you listen to podcasts like this.
And make a get-to list.
All of the stuff you get to do. Seriously.
Instead of the last.
How about this?
Make a get-to
and
list.
Also that your kids get to do.
Yeah, they get to do things that they couldn't do. So this is such an exciting topic and season, and the whole empty nest thing. I just want to put it out there that our empty nests don't look like that of our mothers and our grandmothers.
Thank heaven.
We're in thank heavens in many ways, but I want to acknowledge that it's different. It's just a different time and a different place, and wherever it is for you right now, that is where it should be, and it's okay. And if you're feeling that it's not, then maybe you need to look at it and make some differences, but you're not alone.
Right.
Right. And there's no right or wrong way.
Right or wrong.
It's all about navigating with our midlife mindset and making the choices intentionally each and every day. So I like to leave our listeners with a challenge, and I think it's really, really helpful if you want to take a few minutes and journal just a bit. You were just saying how powerful journaling can be.
It's been amazing for me because what we do is we write, and some people say, Tressen, I don't know how to journal, right? Have you ever heard that before in your coaching business, Brenda?
Oh, yes.
So where do I begin? It doesn't even matter. There's no right or wrong way to do it. And so you just open up. Find something cute. I love these journals that I get from Staples, and they're this thick because I feel like it's going to be a book that someone's going to read later.
Right.
So just start. Put the date on and just say, this is how I'm feeling. This is what I'm thinking. And just let it come out. It doesn't have to be like perfect. It doesn't have to be perfectly written. But then you get to see your thoughts on a piece of paper. And you get to decide what you want to do with those thoughts. And it's a really amazing starting point.
Right. And maybe just start with the prompt of telling your story as you remember it, of you leaving the nest.
I love it.
Write it out. What you were feeling, what was the timeline, and where did you go, and how did your parents react, and how did that feel?
Mm-hmm.
And then, turn the tables a little bit and see how that might have impacted you in your mothering and your launching your children. And maybe if you haven't quite done that yet, if you're approaching that and just still in this wobbly phase that I know all too well, maybe write down what you would have liked to have happened as you were launching.
Yeah.
And we can become and do those things for our children and take it away. But anyway, tell your story to yourself, because it's really powerful to write it down and tell your own story, right?
It is. It's so valuable. And you know what? I think that probably anybody watching this, like, okay, so I'm 54 years old, right? We're the same age. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that maybe we've all had sort of these launching moments. We had kindergarten. We had literally like elementary school. We had middle school. We some people watching this may still have kids in high school. And so everybody's kind of at a different point. And whether or not you draw back from the launching of the 18-year-old self that you're doing or whatever that was, just go to wherever you are in the present moment and allow that writing to come out. We have this midlife thing going on, and we can share it in so many different ways.
Right. So we're going to wrap it up for today. And for all of you who are hearing us say watch, we are on YouTube at the Find Your Lady Tribe channel on YouTube. So check us out there. You're probably listening to this on podcast. So welcome wherever you are and however you're receiving us. We are so glad you're here. Please do hit that subscribe button so you are notified of a new episode each week. And tell your friends, forward this to a friend that might be needing a little support around the empty nest.
Yeah.
So we always like to wrap up our podcast with, when three or more gather, we are tribe. All right.
Thanks,
we'll get that down.